afternoon. It's Connecting Communities with Brian J. and a very special guest, Davida Fink. Davida, how are you today?
I'm great. I am
Awesome,
great.
awesome.
Sun is
Being
shining.
great. Listen,
It's
being great is,
really
is
cool.
where we want to be, right? Well, when we wake up in the morning, that's the goal. Before we dive into conversations, I definitely want to stop and thank our sponsors, which is Permanent Ink Tattoo, as well as Pay It Forward, and last but not least, Healthy with Dawn. So we're talking about paying it forward. We're talking about making some healthy food choices, and then last but not least, let's talk about permanently inking our body. He's my tattoo artist. He could be yours too, Davida. Do you want to come to Toledo and get tattooed?
Let me sleep on that.
Right, yeah. Well, we'll put that on the calendar.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to give that some thought. But thanks for the offer. Really.
No. Now, Davida, do any of your kids have tattoos?
No.
Okay. My father, he is 78 years old. He's a Navy guy, retired, and there is not one tattoo on his body. He is so anti-tattoo. So now you have which I have 11, and my newest one, which is my arm shield, as I call it. When I went home, I just get the handshake. I can't believe you did that, Brian.
Well, I'm with your dad on this one. I got
Right, listen.
Gotta tell you.
Well, he's all like, why are you putting ink into your body? All those toxins. And I mean, it's crazy. Speaking of toxins, that was a good segue, right? On what we're going to talk about today.
I couldn't have told you to say that better.
I know. That's why I'm the host. Now, listen, let's define toxins. Okay. So toxins are substances created by plants and animals that are poisonous. Okay, that's a pretty big key word, right, Davida?
Yeah. Think skull and crossbones, Right.
Hello. Toxins may include medicines that are actually helpful in small doses, but poisonous in large amounts, which again is super crazy. And when we talk about toxins, especially being so current, February 6th, 2023 is something that pops in at least my head, yours as well, Davida, being that we both live in the state of Ohio, right? So what does February 6th, 2023 mean to you?
Wow, this year it marks the train wreck, right? We had that big train derailment in New Palestine. And I know it looks like Palestine for those of you who've seen it on the news, but the residents of this fair city call it Palestine, so that's what we will do. So there was that huge train derailment. Interesting that it obviously made such news, and we'll talk about why. I mean, there are many train derailments every year. This is not an isolated event, but
what has happened has made it very isolated. Right. I mean, we are 15 days after, right, today, and I'm still seeing reports that on day 9 they were still pulling bodies out. But to stay on topic, the EPA as of today is still demanding that Norfolk Southern actually handle all cleanup after the Ohio, and I'm going to use this word that they use, I'm quoting them, after the Ohio toxic train wreck. There's that word again, toxic.
Right. This has been called the worst chemical disaster in U.S. history. I mean, that you can't even wrap your head around that. And in terms of the EPA requiring Norfolk to clean it up, that's literally an impossible task. And we can talk more about that, but that really is an impossible task because these chemicals have gotten into the ground, they've gotten into groundwater, they've gotten into the waterways, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. So it's quite advantageous that you brought it up, because I did want to talk about those chemicals and waterways and things like that. But it's going to be an impossible task to clean it up. And not only that, you and I, fortunately, are west of New Palestine, so we're not getting the wind and things like that. I mean, I've got family that lives in New Jersey, and it rained there a few days ago, and they were putting out warnings, don't let your kids play outside in the rain, things like that. So, but it is flowing down the Ohio Valley waterway, and that Ohio Valley waterway feeds thousands of tributaries all the way out to all the way down south and way, way far out west.
Let's talk about this. And just to throw it out there, we're hearing all these stories today, but what really is going to be concerning is in 3 years, what are we going to be hearing? Is this going to be a lawsuit, right, that you see at 2 o'clock in the morning that is now in charge, in place of the lake, right? Is that what this is going to be in another 3 to 5 years? But let's backtrack. Let's talk about the wreck occurring, and let's talk about air supply, right? And let's talk about water as well as ground infiltrating, basically, and to our, not our world, right? But let's talk about those 3 different pieces.
So just going back to your comment about, is this going to be a lawsuit? I actually heard a very high level OSHA representative talk about the people who live in this town really need to go down and they need to pull out their air filters from their furnaces, and they need to bag them and keep them as evidence.
That's a great point.
So anybody watching from East Palestine or in the surrounding areas, if you haven't, and then you need to be changing those air filters every single day. I mean, we're 2 weeks out already, so most.
Yeah, but start now. I mean, it's better than not starting at all.
Done. Yeah. But they always say when the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the next best time is today. So if you didn't do it on February 6th, start doing it now.
Yeah, I didn't even think of the evidence aspect, because by that time it's going to be, no one will think of that.
Right. So talking about, well, I think where I'd kind of like to start, because health is such a broad term, right? There's so many interconnected pieces, and especially when you get to the point where we start talking about long-term health and possible lawsuits and the evidence and the proof they're going to have to bring, and it's going to be nuts. But I think let's start with kind of a health in general term, right? And let's talk about genes, right? Because what we're really looking at is how all of these toxins and how all of these chemicals affect our genes, affect our genetic code, right? I mean, ultimately, that's what happens. So in my space, there's a saying, genes load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. So what does that mean? So if you're not familiar with epigenetics, Brian, have you heard of epigenetics?
I have not.
Okay. So epigenetics is a science that was started several decades ago, and it's when they started mapping the human genome, right? The human genome product, that's epigenetics, right? Okay. So what they've been doing is mapping the genome, and they find what they call they're calling them tags, right? You have tags on your genes, or you have markers, right, that may predispose you to certain conditions, right? Your parents had diabetes, so maybe you have an epigenetic tag to have diabetes, or cancer, right? We started hearing about BRCA1 and BRCA2 and the cancer gene, right? So you have that epigenetic tag on your genome, but having that tag doesn't necessarily mean it's going to express that. And that's where twins studies are so fascinating. You have studies of identical twins, and one twin gets a certain condition and the other twin doesn't, but they're basically, they have the same DNA. So why is that? And that's where this is really fascinating, but a little off topic. But so these tags can be either upregulated, which means activated, and toxins are a huge upregulator of these genes that they're the catalyst for disease, or they can be downregulated by certain lifestyle choices. So that's just a little bit about what we're talking about. So it's been estimated that genes only account for 5% of disease. Yet more than 5% of the population is ill, right? Between what we call the diseases of affluence, obesity, diabetes, cancer, heart disease, various forms of arthritis, etc. More people are sick than healthy, right? 66% of all adults are on at least one medication. more than 50% are on it 2, more than 40% are on 5 medications or more, and 10% of Americans are on 10 medications or more. So, I mean, those are huge numbers. So it's more than genes. It has to do with the choices we make in our lifestyle, and it has to do with the toxins that we are exposed to. So what this literal train wreck has done is brought to the forefront some of the problems that have been going on with toxins for many, many years. And we can talk about, we won't, but the toxins in your personal care products and the toxins in your hair care products or your beard care, the toxins in your cleaning supplies, the toxins in everything in your life, essentially, they're everywhere. But really what I want to focus on today are forever chemicals, because they are some of really what we're seeing as a result of this train wreck come to light. Have you ever heard of forever chemicals?
I have, yes.
Okay. All right. So for those who have not heard of forever chemicals, that is a term that was coined by Professor Joseph Allen, who is with the Harvard Public School of Health. He's got all kinds of letters behind his name, a trusted, reliable source. And these forever chemicals, as he calls them, have been used since the 1940s. So this is not new, okay? And it ties into this whole idea of toxins and what we're exposed to, because when it comes to our health, we have more control than we think we do. A lot of things we cannot control, which means it behooves us to control the things that we can. And those are the choices that we make. So the first thing you need to know is what's out there. What am I choosing between? Okay, what are my choices? So the first level of this really is knowledge, is being educated. And that's kind of where I want to focus this today, on these forever chemicals, because there are things we can do to combat the genetic stress that it places on us. Okay, so first of all, these forever chemicals, there are thousands of them, and they're all man-made. And that's the heartbreaking part of it, is that we've done this to ourselves, right? So these are man-made chemicals, and they're made of a bond between carbon and fluoride. I'm not going to get too much in the woods here with science, but that's important to know, because that bond of carbon and fluoride, that is the strongest bond in organic chemistry. Now, I didn't even take chemistry, okay? I am not a science person, but that bond of carbon to fluoride is the strongest bond in organic chemistry. It can't be broken down. Full stop. It cannot be broken down. It can't be broken down by heat. It can't be broken down by sunlight. It can't be broken down by water. And it is what makes these items heat resistant, moisture resistant, sun resistant, things like that. There's thousands of them. There's the most popular ones, or the ones we know the most about right now, are PFOAs, which is perfluorooctanoic acid, and PFOS, which is perfluorooctane sulfonic acid. And then there's another one called Gen X. That's kind of the latest. No, it's not your kids if you're my age. It's about 10 syllables. I didn't even try to write it down because there's no way I'd be able to say it, but it is one of these forever chemicals. And these allow air to pass through, but not things such as grease. So you want to order that pizza, right? And you want it to have it delivered to your home, or you want to go pick it up, but don't want that grease to get all over the seat of your car. So they put it in a box that's grease resistant. Well, why is that box grease resistant? Or because it's got these forever chemicals that are preventing that grease from seeping through. But where are those going? Oh, well, they're going into your pizza, right? So, and the challenge is you can make endless structures with these bonds, which is why I've heard anywhere from 6,000 to 9,000 of these forever chemicals, okay? So what has happened, and how does it relate? Let's go back to New Palestine and all of these chemicals getting into the water. And now as they're testing the water, what's coming up? So in June 2022, the EPA stated, and we're going to full stop here. The EPA stated there is no safe level for forever chemicals in water. No safe level, period. We drink the water, we cook with the water, right? I mean, our bodies are 70% water, more than 70% water. You can't live without water. Yet it's been found in at least 2/3 of all the waterways. And that's what's been tested. I mean, they've tested close to 2,000 waterways. And it's found in the blood. It's interesting, they actually have a pool of people and they test the blood of Americans every couple of years. These forever chemicals have been found in the blood of at least 96% of Americans. Now, to me, 96% is 100%. I mean, really, honestly, you're going to make that distinction. I'm going to be part of the 4%. What are the odds, right? So they're found everywhere, everywhere. And we know that with epigenetics, with these epigenetic tags, they pass down from generation to generation. So if you have these epigenetic tags and then there's a catalyst, this goes to your children, and these forever chemicals have been found in breast milk, and they go to your grandchildren. So these toxins, we're not only harming ourselves, but we're harming the future generations. Why are they a problem? Okay, they're immunosuppressants, which means they downregulate your immune system. So that makes you less capable of fighting anything you come in contact with, whether it's cancer.
So they drop
right?
your immune system is what I'm hearing.
They shut down your immune system. And everybody knows about the immune system. That's all that's been in the news for the past 3 years, right? And if you want to learn more, I have a bunch of blogs on my website about the immune system, written in plain English, right? But they're immunosuppressants. So we talk about all these diseases, and then you expose yourself to these toxins, and these toxins are catalysts. They upregulate these genes. So you're less able to fight them because the toxins have downregulated your immune system, but they've upregulated the ability of these toxins to act as a catalyst to upregulate these genes. So these forever chemicals have been linked to cancer, specifically testicular cancer, low birth weights in children, suppressed infant growth, heart disease, thyroid disease. They're obesogens, which means they interfere with lipid or fat metabolism. So it makes it easier to gain weight, harder to lose weight. They've been linked to learning issues and behavior issues. And this is a big one that I've been focusing on a lot lately, and that's fertility. 1 in 3 couples is having fertility issues. 1 in 3. And when you're muted, Brian.
I know I know. I'm so excited. That's that 96%. The other 4%, right there you are, right?
Right.
I mean, 1 in 3 is nothing.
Right. So 1 in 3, 1/3 of all couples are having fertility issues. And when you think of fertility issues, and I'm guilty of this too. You think of fertility issues, you automatically think of the woman. At least you do. I mean, I did anyway. But it's about 50-50 between men and women. And these forever chemicals affect sperm count. And in about the last 25 years, sperm counts have decreased. It's a good thing you're sitting down, Brian. By more. Let me repeat that. They have decreased by more than 50%.
I believe it. I mean, it's a different America, right?
We
consume
really is.
differently.
It really is. And then they bioaccumulate. So you take these forever chemicals, and I'll tell you a little bit more about where they are, and you mix them with the toxins that are in your cleaning supplies, and the toxins that are in your personal care products, and the toxins that are in other things that we're going to talk about. And I mean, it's overwhelming. Now, there are things you can do, and we'll get to that, but they're mobile. These forever chemicals are mobile. They float in the waterways, which is why we're seeing them all over the place. You find them in anything that is water resistant or stain resistant or flame retardant. So you have a waterproof raincoat, you have a couch that, or a carpet that, you know, you spill wine, right? Nobody wants that wine stain on their carpet, right? So it's stain resistant. Well, that's a forever chemical. And when you have your house and they're in paints, they're in varnishes, right? When you have work done on your house and you walk into your house, or you buy a new car, right? And you go, oh, that new car smell. Well, don't breathe too deeply, because those are the forever chemicals, and they're off gassing, right? And they're off gassing right into you.
Mm.
So these are things that are just, they're in, they sell kids pajamas as flame retardant, right? It's a benefit. Kids pajamas are flame retardant, which is a nice thing. You know, like nobody wants their kids to burn, and living in a house that burned down in a fire, I get that. Okay, that's very real to me. Okay, but I don't want them rolling around at night and wrapping themselves up in forever chemicals either. So, you know, we have decisions to make. They are in microwave popcorn bags. They're in takeout food containers. They're, as I said, paints, varnishes. I mean, they are everywhere. And here's one that everybody knows, right? But Brian, you know what BPA, you've heard of BPA, right?
Correct.
Right, BP are bisphenols, right? So they are a combination of benzene and hydroxy, and there are hundreds of them. They're used in plastics, and they're hormone disruptors on top of other things, but they're hormone disruptors, which once again speaks to the fertility issue, it speaks to the weight issue, it speaks to all kinds of things, right? So if you have BPA, and if you're like me, right, and you're trying to be healthy, at least before I learned all this, you go to the store and you buy plastic that, what is it?
Does it melt?
It's BPA free, right? We all want stuff that's BPA free, okay? So the problem is they can do so many different combinations with these chemicals, and they're basically indistinguishable. So what they do is if they take out one because they're caught, and it you know, it was a big thing to remove BPA, right? Well, they replaced it with BPS. It's the same chemical. It's got a minor change to the chemical bond. It's the same thing. It does the same thing. And now BPS is starting to get a bad rap, so they're going to replace it with BPF. There are hundreds of these bisphenols, okay? So I recently went out and bought more glass, right? So one of the things you can do is store things in glass, buy things in glass, things like that, in terms of getting away from the BPs, the bisphenols. But we love these as consumers because we want to be able to take our food, take out our carry-outs, and we want to be able to stay dry in the rain. We want to be able to do all these things. And there are so many different variants. So what I hope I've done here a little bit is just kind of educate people on what these forever chemicals are, what we're up against, and I really hope this is just the first phase, if you've learned anything here, to really take it seriously and look more into this, because there are things we can do. And the first thing you can do, obviously, is get informed, right? If you just go to YouTube and search forever chemicals, you'll get a ton of videos, okay? You can go to the EPA website. There's a great, you know, they've got documents on it. They came out with I won't even go into that. It's pretty much a joke, but how they're going to combat these forever chemicals. And I think they're focusing on 20 or 24 of them. How many can you focus on? They're all so bad. The next thing you need to do is build your immune system. Okay, immunity is key. Our immune systems are being attacked everywhere, and you need to build your immune system. Now, as a health consultant, that's where I come in helping people, or one of the places I come in helping people, right? Eat an antioxidant rich diet. What does that mean? How do you know if you're eating an antioxidant rich diet? Well, the more colors, the better, right? Eat from the farm, not from the barn, right? Anything that grows, we say without a face or a mother, right, is going to be antioxidant rich. We're talking about greens, we're talking about peppers, we're talking about beets, we're talking about blueberries, all kinds of berries, nuts and seeds, things like that. But anything that the deeper the color, the more antioxidant rich it is. So make sure you're eating the rainbow, eat that antioxidant rich diet.
I love that. Eat the rainbow.
Eat the rainbow.
Yeah, listen, that's We should tagline that, and that should be your signature. Eat
There
the
you go.
rainbow. And that keeps it simple, right? These
Right?
are things
Eat
that
the
we can
rainbow.
remember on a daily basis, or when we're at the grocery store, that Davida said the darker or deeper the color, right? The more antioxidants on there.
Right. The more, right. And think about it. I mean, it's brilliant, right? If you cut open a tomato, it looks like the chambers of the heart.
Yeah.
The color of a beet is very close to the color of blood. And you can look at vegetables and you can almost see by looking at them where they're going to help you, right? It's fascinating.
Have you thought about doing, like, listen, we should do a class with Davida. What does the broccoli mean? Right? We can break it down and keep it simple. There's a lot of information that Davida has. So what are some quick, easy ways for people to reach out to you, Davida?
Well, I just want to finish up because there's a couple more things people can do. A couple more things people can do, because I don't want to leave you with all this bad news, right? And then, there's got to be hope, right? At the end of the rainbow that you're eating, right? There has to be hope. So reduce your oxidative stress, right? So that is, animal protein causes massive oxidative stress. Toxins in your environment, right? Clean up those personal care products that you're using. Clean up the cleaners that you're using in your home. Just things like that. And these are all things, right, that I can help you with. And we'll talk about that, but reduce that oxidative stress. And there are a lot of things you can do. Supplement. It is huge to make sure you're getting the right supplementation to support your immune system, your heart health, your skin, all of those things. The skin is your largest organ and it is your first defense. People don't think about it, but your skin is your first defense in your immune system, right?
That's true.
Its role is to keep things out.
It's the filter. We were talking about filters earlier, right? That's your filter, which then goes to your immune system.
Right. So don't go slathering these toxins on your skin, right? Because then they get into your bloodstream and it all bioaccumulates. So detox your environment. So, Brian, I hope this wasn't too techy or too sciencey.
No,
but
it's one of the reasons.
I just really feel like, people don't know. They just don't know. And my role, I really feel what I need to do is just educate people on what they're up against and what they can do about it.
Well, one of your strengths, Davida, and I've said this from the get-go, is that you talk real talk and people language, right? You may throw out some of these scientific terms every once in a while, but you break stuff down so, us ordinary people understand what you're saying. So that's a strength, and we appreciate that. And obviously, some ways that we can touch base with you are going to be your website, right? healthypureandsimple.com. We have our Facebook, which again, Healthy, Pure, and Simple. LinkedIn, Davida, right? Fink, F-I-N-K. Those are some great ways to reach out to you and connect with you. I mean, you do a phenomenal 20-minute free conversation, right? Consultation, where you can kind of discuss the insides and outs and the things that are affecting the insides of your body and some of the things on the outside of your body that are affecting the inside of your body. Again, it's a lot about the body, right? And as Americans, that's what we're trying to protect. So, Davida, with that being said, we appreciate your time and energy. Is there any last tidbit you may have for us going into spring? Anything we can kind of do quickly in 2 to 3 hours?
Anything you can do quickly in 2 to 3. Look, move.
Okay.
Move your body. Right? This is my third or fourth Zoom meeting today. I have lost count. Okay. But in between every meeting, I get up, my office is on the second floor of my home. I get up, I go up and down the steps. I might even walk around. If I'm feeling adventurous, I'll walk around my dining room table. Now, I have a big dining room table. I'll walk around that a few times, really move your body. That's the first thing. The second thing is supplement. I mean, that is key. People are just not getting the nutrition they need from the foods that they are eating, and they are overeating and undernourished.
I think if we take a look at where we were 1940s with our food supply, I say this all the time when I go into the store with Jackson. Back in my day, we had one Reese cup candy bar just one. You grabbed it and you went. Today, there were probably 10 different varieties of this one Reese kind of bar with pretzels, with potato chips. Today, I saw it with marshmallows, with Butterfinger Crunch, white chocolate Reese's, right? And we're not even going to get into the king size aspects that we do. But I mean, when you have 5 different types of Nestle Crunch bar, it's all these options that are just out there and they're not the best options. And it's not even them not being the best options, but now we're making a multiple bad choices. I tell Jackson all the time, listen, you eat whatever you want to eat, but you understand the consequences that are going to come. If you're an athlete, if you're going to eat some crappy food right now, you've got to eat something that's going to balance that out. He wanted a cheesecake yesterday after he already ate an ice cream cone because he forgot the cheesecake was there. He goes, Dad, can I have that cheesecake? I said, you can. He looked at me, he goes, I thought you'd say no. I said, do I ever tell you no that you can't have food? I said, but look how you ate today. Look how you're going to eat tomorrow. Is that the best choice? He had an apple instead.
Good for him and
Right.
good for you. And I think the challenge there also is that people don't realize that these effects, these health effects build up over time, right? You know, they call it early detection in cancer, right? We detected it early. By the time a cancer cell or a cancer tumor is big enough to detect, you've had it for 8 to 10 years. Okay, to me, that's not early.
It's not early.
Right? 25% of people who die from a sudden heart attack, that is their first indication that they have heart disease. They don't get a second chance.
Let me ask you this, is it their first indication or are we just lazy and don't realize the signs that are happening because they're normal to us, right? And that's a whole other topic.
That's another whole topic, right? Right.
Davida, I appreciate your time. I always appreciate your energy. Any favorite quote at the moment that you could end us out with?
Eat the rainbow.
There it is. Eat the rainbow. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next week, same time, same place.